It was the day Michael Jackson died, and this boy that I went to school with sent me a MySpace message and was talking about all the things he wanted to do to me. And my goofy ass left my MySpace page open. My mama saw the messages, and she went over to his house. I do think that, like, sometimes when you withhold a lot of information from kids and young adults, again, it does more of a disservice to them, because then they have to go out into the world and figure things out for themselves, and that's how people get hurt. They should not be saying cookie and poom poom, because God forbid something happened to your child. They need to be able to articulate what happened, not he touched my cookie. Huh? We outside, we outside, we outside. Yeah, you could be outside, but make sure that your insides are protected. What's up, y'all? It's your girl, Miss Amarachi. Welcome back to my channel. As you can see, I got my red robe on. If you saw the description and the title, we're doing another live chat. But before we start, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend, and comment down below on how you feel about this topic. So today's live chat is a bit of a taboo topic, but, well, taboo topic to the world, not necessarily to me. But it's definitely a topic that I wanted to talk about because I feel like it's not talked about a lot in many communities, especially the Black community and the African community. So let's talk about sex and intimacy. So just to give those of you who don't know me well, a little bit of background. So my parents are from Nigeria. All of my siblings and I were born in the United States, specifically Prince George's County, Maryland. Shout out to PG, yeah, Pretty Girl County. And you know, even though we were raised in, you know, a traditional, well, I want to say traditional, actually I wouldn't say traditional African household, because my mom and dad are actually very Americanized. Like, my mom has lived in the United States longer than she's lived in Nigeria. So it's definitely giving, you know, assimilation and assimilation and Americanization. But my parents still made sure to instill, you know, traditional African values in my siblings and I, and they made sure that we knew about our culture, we knew about where we were from, we visited Nigeria, all these things. Cool. The reason why I bring this up is because in addition to instilling traditional African values in us, there are also certain things that were not really discussed because they were kind of taboo topics, similar to the way that, you know, traditional Black families don't talk about certain things because they're taboo topics as well. And one of those topics is about sex and intimacy, and having sex and what it looks like to have safe sex and things of that nature. So I want to talk about it because we are all grown. Well, if you're watching this video, hopefully you're grown, and if you're not, you will be grown one day. I pray that you will make it to a long life. And one day, if you have not yet, you will have sex. And it's important that these conversations are normalized because it is a normal part of life. How do you think that you got here? I don't know about y'all, but I only know of one Jesus and one God. And so people are not just becoming pregnant randomly. There has to be some sort of thing that happens, whether it's actual intercourse, whether it's, you know, IVF, whether it's whatever it is. I'm not very well versed in like all the multiple ways of getting pregnant, but I do know that like sex is the main way that people get pregnant. And so, you know, if you have never had a conversation with your family about what sex looks like, what safe sex looks like, how to protect yourself, things of that nature, then like you're kind of being thrown out, you know, to the wolves. So let me be your big sister that has this conversation with you. I won't talk too much about my personal stuff because I do feel like, you know, some things don't need to be on the internet, but I'm gonna just say I'm grown. That being said, I will tell you all about, you know, how I kind of learned about sex and intimacy and the things that I wish were a little different now that I am older and have a lot more knowledge, understanding, and experience. So first of all, I feel like the first time I learned about sex was when I was like, the first time I like learned about sex truly was probably in high school. We had like health, and I think like in most high schools there's like a little section in health where they like talk about sex, kind of, not really. And, you know, they tell you, like, this is what sex is. Here are some condoms. Go about your business. And it's not a holistic view of sex. It's not a really like a safe view conversation about sex. It's not really a lot of knowledge that's given to children and to young people to make sure that they are being safe, which is the most important thing, and that they know what it's like to have autonomy over their body, and they know what to ask for, and they know how to ask for these things. And I know that that was like the conversation that I had, because my sisters, who are 18, are currently seniors in high school, and they go to school in the same county that we grew up. And I'm very close to my sisters. They pretty much tell me everything. I've never heard them have a conversation with me about what they've learned about sex in school. Like, most of the stuff they probably know about sex is through their friends who have done it, or through seeing stuff online. And I just feel like that's like a very surefire way of your child, like, potentially getting caught up in stuff that they don't need to be getting caught up, because you're allowing the school to dictate what they learn, how much they learn, when they learn it, instead of you as the parent having those conversations, right? And once again, that's why I prefaced the conversation with saying that I come from a traditional African household, because I recognize that, like, a lot of topics are taboo, or a lot of topics that, you know, people might have conversations with their kids about early on are kind of taboo topics in traditional African and Black households. You know, a lot of my white friends and associates talk about how their parents kind of had those conversations with them very, very early on, and made sure that they, you know what I'm saying, knew the ins and outs about sex and you know, pleasure and intimacy and stuff like that, which prepared them for, like, the real world when they decided that they wanted to embark on that journey themselves. And actually, let me take it back a little bit, because what I will say is that, you know, and this is kind of like commonplace. I think that this is like a common thing. My parents definitely, you know, when I was younger, told me the places that people are not supposed to touch, you know, places that adults are not supposed to touch that aren't, you know, immediate family members. Like, don't let this person touch this area that's private. Don't let anybody touch this area that's private. The only people that can touch you in this area are mommy and grandma, or mommy, daddy, and grandma, and stuff like that. And, like, even my dad, like, was very, very, I remember my dad was very, very, like, what's the word? He was very cognizant of how he did things, or what things he did with me when I was younger, because he wanted to make sure that I knew that men are not supposed to be doing certain things to me, right? So, like, my dad never hit me, ever in life, literally never. My dad has never put his hands on me. I think it's a mixture of, like, his face alone tells me, like, oh, you fucked up, but also, like, he wanted to make sure that no man, or that I knew that no man should ever put his hands on me and hit me, right? Because my dad didn't do that. And the only, like, man that really hit me ever, well, the only boy that ever hit me really was my brother, because, you know, siblings fight. And I used to mess with him all the time, so it was warranted. But once again, my family made sure, whether it was my uncles, whether it was my dad, whether it was my whoever, men did not put their hands on women, on me or any women around me, because they wanted to make sure that all of us, me, my siblings, my sisters, and my girl cousins, knew men shouldn't do that. So that is a form of sex education that I did receive as a child, but I was never told about the inner workings. I was never told about, again, pleasure, pain, intimacy, actual intercourse, what it looks like, what it's supposed to feel like, how to protect yourselves. I learned that stuff, or like a semblance of that, in high school when I was in like the 10th grade. And then, of course, I will say, you know, as a child, there there are indicators that people are having sex earlier than I was in 10th grade, right? So like in middle school, boys used to be fucking doing weird shit and talking about, oh yeah, I want to take your virginity and shit like that. And I was like, look, that don't got nothing to do with me. I don't know what you talking about, but don't be coming over here with no weird shit. Like, I ain't with none of that. I remember there was this boy, and it was funny because it was the day Michael Jackson died. And which don't hurt me, but I don't remember this specific day, but it was the day Michael Jackson died, and this boy that I went to school with sent me a MySpace message and was talking about all the things he wanted to do to me. And my goofy ass left my MySpace page open. My mama saw the messages, and she went over to his house and literally printed out the messages for his mama. And apparently his mom was home, but didn't want to open the door because she saw my mom was about to, like, blow her shit up. And then she went back in the car and heard that Michael Jackson died. So that's why I know that day. But nevertheless, I was exposed to sex early, but I wasn't taught about it until high school. Then, and also, my high school had a daycare downstairs for, like, people, like, for the kids that went to our high school, as well as the kids of, like, teachers and, like, some of the community members. And the daycare was run by students. So I remember my 11th grade year, I think, or maybe 10th grade year, I was a student in child development, and I was one of the people who helped take care of the kids. So that was another place that I kind of learned about child development, but not really sex. All right, then fast forward, and I think the first time I remember having an actual conversation with my mom about sex was on prom night, when she was like, look, I know people be having sex on prom night. Please, the one request I have from you is do not have sex tonight. And I was like, why? Like, in my head, I was like, why? Even though I didn't have no plans of doing it, I feel like I hadn't learned enough. And so I had this, like, warped view of what sex was. And I was like, baby, I don't like no pain. I don't like no hurt. I don't want none of that shit. So I'm good. I'm not even about to do that. But she was like, just don't have it tonight because everybody has sex during prom night. And that's how babies are made and da-da-da, all this stuff. And I was like, all right, cool. So I didn't have sex on prom night. But that was like the first real conversation I had with my mom about sex, kind of. And after that, I think I've like really learned myself what sex looked like, what intimacy was like. And again, it's no knock to my parents because they were doing what they knew and what they thought was best. But I do think that, like, sometimes when you withhold a lot of information from kids and young adults, again, it does more of a disservice to them because then they have to go out into the world and figure things out for themselves, and that's how people get hurt. That's how shit goes murky. That's how people don't know, you know, the difference between that's how kids and people don't know the difference between I was coerced into having sex versus, yeah, we ended up having sex, like, and it's like, you ended up, did they coerce you? Did you want to do it? Did you say no? Was it an enthusiastic yes? Or, you know, that's how people don't understand that, you know, certain things are not supposed to hurt and that you're supposed to open your mouth and say, hey, that hurts. But when you don't have conversations with people and specifically build them up, with this knowledge and understanding that one day they will have sex, you set them up for failure. And I think that's one of the biggest disservices that we have, that we do to young people, is having this idea that they're always going to be young and they're never, ever, ever going to learn about sex, want to have sex, experiment with sex, right? So as somebody who, again, is grown, and has had her own experiences and has learned different things through whatever, one piece of advice that I would give to parents, family members, whatever, is have conversations with your children early on. I remember I studied abroad in Denmark when I was a sophomore in college. And it was one of the most amazing experiences. I studied child psychology because I was a psychology major in college. And so we studied child psychology in Denmark. And I remember one of the things we did was we went to a child daycare, which is called a Born a Haven. And we were like talking, we were like, you know, interacting with the kids, playing with the kids, teaching the kids, boom, 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 boom. And I remember our teacher had told us that kids in Denmark learn about sex, body parts, and everything when they're like 2 years old. Like, they know what their vagina is, they know what a penis is, they know about sex, they know about intercourse. Of course, from a child's lens, right? They're not telling them about all the everything, right? But they do teach the kids about things so that, again, they know, one, how to be safe, two, what they shouldn't be doing, and what other people should and shouldn't be doing to them, and three, how to have fun with it. Because at the end of the day, it should be a fun, explorative experience, not a painful one, not a, oh my God, what the, like, no, it should be a fun experience, right? And so I remember I saw one of the books that they used to teach the kids about sex, and baby, when I tell you, they literally showed a woman like laying on her back having a baby. Like, they show the kids like the baby come out of the woman's vagina. Like, they open the book up and it's just like, let's learn about body parts and sex or something like that. Like, that's what it's about. Body parts and sex. The first few pages is about your body parts. They tell you about female body parts. They tell you about male body parts. I'm pretty sure they tell you about like intersex, and they tell you about all the LGBTQ, like, you know, terms and stuff like that. They teach them about everything. Then it's like, okay, this is what happens when two women have sex. This is what happens when two men have sex. This is what happens when a woman and a man have sex. Then it's like, okay, when a woman get pregnant, this is what happened. This is how she push out the baby. This is how a woman gets pregnant. Like, they literally laid out everything for these children. And at first I was like appalled, like, oh my God, like, these kids is 3, 4, and 5 running around talking about body parts and sex. But then I really sat back and I was like, but this is amazing, because it's, again, teaching the kids what they should and shouldn't be doing, and what people should and shouldn't be doing with them, to them, things of that nature. And that ultimately prepares them for when they have decided that they want to, you know, engage in whatever sexual activity that they want to. So I would say, please teach your kids about sex. Literally, as soon as they learn, and they like words, like actual words, you should also be teaching them about sex in an age-appropriate manner. You should be not only telling them what places on their body people shouldn't be touching, that aren't family, right? Or that aren't, not even that aren't family, that aren't mom and dad and grandma maybe. You should be teaching them about, again, what body parts are off limits for anybody to touch, but you should also be teaching them the actual terms for vagina and penis. They should not be saying cookie and poom poom, because God forbid something happened to your child, they need to be able to articulate what happened. Not, he touched my cookie. Huh? Like, you're a cookie? Like, okay, I'm gonna give you some more cookies. That's not what the child was saying. The child was saying something happened to them, but they can't articulate it because you told them cookie instead of vagina. You feel me? So you need to be teaching them the actual terms for the words that they're using. When they 4 years old, they don't need to know about arch your back and missionary and da da da. Make it age appropriate, because relying on these school systems to teach our kids is the easiest way to fail our children. So that's the first advice that I have. Second piece of advice that I have is, you as an adult also need to make sure that you know the proper ways and the safe ways to be having sex, and that you're practicing those things yourself, right? Like, once again, we all want to be outside, but when we outside, we outside. Yeah, you could be outside, but make sure that your insides are protected, especially to my ladies. Make sure that, you know what I'm saying, you are being selective and protective over who and what has access to your body and what kind of energies that they have, right? Because I don't know if I necessarily agree or disagree with, what's the word? like this, like, I forgot the word, but it's like sexual spirits or some shit. Like someone said, like, you have sex with people and then like you got like their spirits or something like that. I don't necessarily know if I disagree or agree, but I do think that like energies are transferred. And so if you're with somebody intimately that don't got good energy, or like, you know what I'm saying, got all types of just foolishness going on, that could potentially permeate through your body, because again, sex is an exchange of energies. And once somebody enters you, or once you enter somebody, it's like you're entering into their atmosphere, like you're entering into their like energy, and whatever energy they have is going to come out with you. You feel me? So you got to be very careful, very specific, very strategic with who you decide to lay down with. And I'm not saying that like you got to be a prune and you can only be with one person, but just be very strategic, because that will again alter, or could potentially alter, your like state of mind, state of being, state of psychosis, whatever. And the last piece of advice that I have, because I know that this video is getting long, so I'll finish it up, is don't be afraid to have conversations about sex. Like, don't be afraid. It's a normal part of life. People be having sex every day, every hour, every minute, every second. People be thinking about sex every day, every hour, every minute, every second. Sex is just a natural thing. It's a way of life. It's just a thing. Like, folks be having sex. The more we talk about it, the more we name it, the more we speak about it, the less icky it becomes. It shouldn't be an icky topic to talk about sex. Now, no one's telling you to divulge your whole sexual history, your whole experience from beginning to end, but speaking more about it normalizes it for you and for those around you, so that people feel comfortable when, you know, they might have had a sexual experience that wasn't good, and they don't feel comfortable talking about it because people don't talk about sex around them. But then when you start talking about it, they're like, I want to share this experience that happened to me and I didn't like it, or it wasn't as good as I thought. I would love to get y'all opinions. And then you talk to the person and you figure out that either, oh, maybe, you know, that thing that y'all were doing, maybe you just don't want to do that anymore. That's uncomfortable. Or that thing that happened to you shouldn't have happened, and let's get you help. The more we normalize things and normalize conversations, especially about sex and intimacy, I feel like we're going to find as a community and as a society that, again, it's going to become less of a taboo topic. People are going to be more willing and open to talk about their sexual experiences, and then those who might not have had good experiences can learn what to do and how to like make better their sex life, but also learn what is and isn't okay, and what should and shouldn't be happening, and how best to navigate that space. Alright, y'all, so as you can see, I've taken my band off. I do need to lay it a little bit more, but y'all, this is like the first time I've ever really put on a frontal wig, like for real. So I'm very proud of myself, because like, even though I need to clean up like right here and stuff, I did that. So I might do like a little pony, whatever. But nevertheless, that's the end of this live chat. Make sure that ultimately you're having safe sex, that you are doing what is okay with you, that you are communicative with your partner or partners, no judgment over here, and that you are being clean, that you are being healthy, that you are not only being kind and gentle to yourself and for yourself, but you're being kind and gentle to all those who you've decided to be intimate with. And y'all, let's talk about sex more. Like, let's desensitize it. Let's normalize it. Let's all the lies is it. Okay? But as always, thank you so much for joining me. Make sure you comment, subscribe, like, share, and tune in next week or maybe the week after for the next live chat. I know I said I was going to be consistent, but y'all, life be lifing. And I just can't be as consistent as I want to be right now, but I'm going to try to be more consistent. That's why I kind of try to batch and bulk create content so that I can just edit it, drop it. But a big life event happened to me last week, so you you know, just bear with me as I regain this journey. Thank you all as always. Love you.